Hello, everyone, and welcome to Poetry Live, October 22nd. As always, I want to thank everybody in the audience and all of the poets that are here to read, both on stage with me and the ones out in the crowd that'll come up at some point. It's been sort of an amazing month. We started this on the 10th of last month, and we're on the 22nd. I just was doing stats today, and I noticed that we had 1,600 total views for this thing. So we're getting a lot of eyes on our poetry, a lot of ears on our poetry, and it's all really thanks to everybody here reading and everybody, coming week by week, and new people too, and everybody online. So that's just really amazing, and I want to thank everybody for coming. It's just been so great. So before we get started, I, of course, want to mention a couple things. The first thing is that we want to make sure that we all, do the social distancing thing. Try to sit or be 6 feet away from people if you can. We have a lot of room to spread out, so it hasn't been an issue. Keep your mask off, or on, not off. As long until you're reading. That's one of the big ones. We also want to thank the Erie County Public Library for allowing us to have this event here. There aren't a lot of spaces that are this large that could be accessible right now. So just the fact that we're able to have it here has been really cool. I also want to thank SafeNet. They're here tonight. A lot of their people and a lot of the organizational stuff. We wanted to get them here sometime during this month because it's Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, and it's the support that they've shown to the library in general and their communication with us has been so great. So I'm happy to have a lot of them here. If you're here from SafeNet and you want to read, 100%, I'm so happy that you're here and you feel that this is something you can do. You can, of course, come to this mic, or we have a mic to the side so that you won't be caught on camera. Only this mic will be caught on camera. So if you want to read but you're not comfortable putting your face out there for whatever reason, if that's not safe for you to do, we do have an alternative. If that is the case, when you want to come up, you'll after somebody else is done, you'll walk over to the side, stand over next to the railing, and then once we have the mic set up to make sure you're okay, we'll wave you on. It'll be great. We're excited for you. The only other thing really is, there's a couple other things I keep forgetting about. One, poetry rules in general. Read 2 poems, 3 if they're all very short. We don't want anybody to not be able to be heard tonight, so we just want to make sure everybody has about the same amount of time. And the last thing is next week we have a featured reader, so that will be awesome, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Excellent. So I'm going to sit down. Whoever wants to go first tonight can come take my spot, introduce yourself, and then read your poems. And I look forward to hearing them all. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mabel Howard, and I am a lover of poetry. Also, I love being in the presence of other poets. So tonight I'm going to share 2 short poems. The first one is called One Night You'll Stand. It's not my first time, but it's my first time with some of you. I'm completely committed to getting you in the right mood, to enjoy the performances that will come into existence, some full of sadness and others full of wisdom. Are you open to performances birthed through those who are willing to share, to the thought of being bare naked in front of strangers who may not even care? If this is your first and only night with them, one night you'll stand. Over the past several months, I sometimes spend time with friends, and We've been getting together and challenging each other to write poetry within 4 minutes on a random topic. So I came up with this one a few weeks ago, and it's called Freedom. It is freedom that allows us to eat everything we see, an activity that can lead to most illnesses and disease, from diabetes complications that typically start with obesity. How long will it take families to see that it's okay to snack but not on everything, especially when trapped in the house? COVID-19 safety. We used to say there's no time, but right now, that's a lie. Take this moment to add more exercise into your life. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Swager, and I work at SafeNet. I will be reading 3 poems from domestic violence survivors. I'm going to do one at a time, intersperse them through our time together. This first one is called Nothing Left. The pain he caused and the things he's done killed me. He has no idea the impact he had on us. She gave us everything. He gave us nothing. I don't have a heart anymore. I don't think I ever did. I can't love, regret, or feel at all. I don't eat or sleep. I'm stuck in an infinite cycle of pain and loss. I take it out on others I love. I don't know why I do it to them. I don't want them to experience the pain I've felt before, and especially not when I cause it. I'm not the sensitive type. Never have been. I'm a tomboy. Never wear pink or skirts. I always act tough, even though I'm not really. I play football, like dirt bikes, and listen to rock music. The pain he has caused slowly eroded away my humanity. I can feel a little bit, mostly pain, but everything else is numb. I'm hollow inside. There's nothing left of me. I haven't been there for weeks, and I feel great. I feel alive again, and I don't ever want to go back to feeling the way I did. And I know he feels the same way. This particular survivor is the child in a domestic violence house.
Hello, my name is Thasia Ann. I am a survivor, and I do everything I can to help other women survive better and faster. The first poem I'm reading tonight is called October. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Not that you're supposed to wait and send her to her fate only in October, but in October, those who live safe, sane, solitudinal lives, those who actually love their wives, well, they're supposed to think, give a thought to those women who lost lives, nearly perfect wives trying to survive, or girlfriends trying to fend off blows, not from foes, but loved ones carrying guns and knives that end those young, sweet lives. And he will say with dismay, if I can't have you, no one can. Well, man, no one has or owns another, especially not your baby's mother. You, women who are blessed, women who have husbands who have never messed with your minds, husbands who are kind, I remind you, please do not judge. You have not walked in shoes that are skewed with survival skills and strong wills trying to find safety. Shelters offering safe escape plans, the demands that come from hiding from crazed minds. Strong women who live with scars or scares from the one they cared about most, who are now plays the host to their deepest fears. October is when we drag out pictures of women lost and we try to add up the cost that these families add, grave rocks claiming mother, jail cells, holding another abuser of women. And let us not forget there are men raised right, whose fists stayed tight and never swung upon a woman. Men out in the night with nowhere to go because no one understands their plight. So this is October. Take a moment to count your lucky stars, be thankful for where you are, and say a prayer that someday soon, October only need be about the moon and scary witches. And this one is called This Place. I was in a 17-year domestic violence relationship where he tried to end my life several times. I had a long time after that, and I am now very happily married. And I've been told I need to tell people that so they don't attack him in the parking lot. This place, this new life opposite from where I crept out of poverty and bleakness, and I fought and kept pushing through. I wouldn't stop, so with wings I flew. I would not settle. My once fragile self was now made of metal, and I learned and grew. I exchanged most of the people I knew, and with a grateful heart, I still have a chosen few. I am in a position now to teach and train people that you do deserve the best. Do not accept like the rest of the crowd. Capture the wind, fly from death's bite, carve out a great life like a grin in a great pumpkin. I am here to say my best life yet is in this place where I am content and free. And I have one short one I want to end with. I had it marked. I don't know where the marker went. Here it is. My last one this evening is called Please Don't. He came home late and mad, yelling about the dinner I had waiting, now burned or cold. I'm being told how I'm a cow or a sow. I don't argue, head held low. How much can I take? I don't even know. But he's certain he has my cure and he'll choke it out of me for sure. So now I lay me down to sleep. I can't breathe for the fear is deep. If he should kill me before I wake, please don't let him get away with it. Thank you.
My name is Robin Young, and I am from SafeNet, and we really appreciate you guys taking the time to make this an important thing to be able to talk about tonight, and we appreciate you letting us be part of it. I am going to read two poems, both written by survivors that we have worked with. The first one, The Sound of Silence. Silence can resemble so many things once you exchange wedding rings. It's kept lurking in a deep, dark place, one day to show its ugly face, dreaming of what you've always longed, then to discover how you were wronged. When someone hides who they really are, silence is truly not very far. As you cover up his acts of rage, feeling embarrassed, especially at your age. Silence takes up residence in so many houses, countless nights spent sleeping on couches. Betrayal and heartache reveal deception, only to uncover your severe depression. Silence starts to become your norm, but not sharing details of his storms. Slowly changing who you used to be like, he first uses silence after a fright, all while never addressing wrong versus right. Days pass by, he refuses to talk. You begin to dissect your every walk. You adapt to the silence as you begin to cope, knowing one day soon you'll reach the end of your rope. Your marriage never respected nor honored. Feeling alone again, the silence wondered. Being all on your own seems so scary, not what you imagined on the day you were married. If it weren't for your children, you may never have gone. You don't want them to repeat this vicious cycle, for life is too long. Let the guilt go, for she's not your friend. Over time, it's silence who begins to mend. Time goes on for all around, but you still fear not one sound. Yelling and screaming is way too common, and praying your children won't think you wronged them. Forcing them to visit Dad's house is so very hard when you knew, they knew, you've no other card. You often feel powerless, your kids full of fright, shutting them back and forth, you many a sleepless night. Silence brings peace to those who listen, though it's so hard when your kids are missing. Weekends, holidays spent all alone, hours full of worry when they don't answer their phone, emailing, texting, or devising a code. Oftentimes, always, they keep refusing to go. When things finally calm down, then your fear sets in, waiting for more noise to begin. Living your life by court-ordered papers, all the while wishing he'd vanish to vapors. If you do speak up when wrong versus right, you risk parental alienation as his next drawn-out fight. Children take on a much different role, your guilt eating away a hole in your soul. Co-parenting, another form of silence experienced, with only you to shed a light ray of strong perseverance. There are Disney dads or dads in jail, but knowing your own dad is the only caring male. Silence plays a tricky role, as when you don't speak up, you risk paying the largest toll. Court dates, appeals, and custody battles leave scars on all kids, and that's truly what matters. Silence rides along for 18 years' time, but knowing that very day, when it's their choice, they chose to be all mine. Silence waits for you to finally listen. It starts to display the peace and calm that's always been missing. Your kids, they've witnessed all that you've done throughout the years, sacrificing all in place of having fun. The sound of silence begins to heal, but wounds, yet too often, still feel so real. Please all take a look around, as domestic violence is sure to be found. Speak up when you witness trouble. Offer a shoulder for the children to cuddle. Stand up always and be so brave. Don't you worry, karma will follow him to his grave. With no regrets, no fears, victims we are no longer. All womankind, one would think, would be that much stronger. Now it's time, ladies, to pull up your big girl pants, or unfortunately, as the old saying goes, silence is acceptance. And I have one more that was shared by someone that we work with. It's called Nothing Left. The pain he caused and the things he's done killed me. He has no idea the impact he had on us. She gave us everything, he gave us nothing. I don't have a heart anymore. I don't think I ever did. I can't love, regret, or feel at all. I don't eat or sleep. I'm stuck in an infinite cycle of pain and loss I take it out on others I love. I don't know why I do it to them. I don't want them to experience the pain I felt before, and especially not when I cause it. I'm not the sensitive type, never been. I'm a tomboy. Never wear pink or skirts. I always act tough. And that's all. Thank you.
Hello, guys. I'm Nisi. I'm a survivor as well. I usually do read my domestic stuff, but today I had slightly something different. This a little bit of an empowerment one that I worked on. And I didn't have a title for it, but I'll just share it. Slaying and motivated, highly melanated, consistently shaded, not afraid of being hated, creative, supremely elevated, living life like you've made it. I swear, Black women, when we walk, around us the flowers bloom, birds sing, leaves climb to trees and reattach themselves. We are like magic. That was... I wrote this next piece in 2018. There was a story about a girl in New York, I believe it was New York, Nia Wilson, was tragically murdered. And I was really touched by it because there were so many elements of the story. And going through her social media, she did have some, elements of domestics in her life. And this was kind of like a racially motivated slaying on top of the guy who did it, had some issues with women. So I wrote it and I sent it to her mother and she posted it. So it's kind of like made me feel emotional that she really liked it. So I'll read it. Nia Wilson, a young queen taken too soon. In Swahili, Nia means purpose. The Welsh translated to bright. White supremacy rendered you worthless, and its hate maliciously stolen your life. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That was one of your posts. Your murder released a powerful wave of energy, invoking strength in those who needed it most. Hearing stories of how you were loved, pictures reflect a young radiant queen, questioning how and why a man felt so compelled to sacrifice this very young being. I imagine you carefree that day, outspoken and upbeat, not knowing that you would encounter a man bent on placing you in a proverbial white sheet. Your beauty could not go unnoticed, commanding attention wherever you stand, stirring up the insecurities of that egotistical Klansman. Another Black life was stolen, had fallen by the will of a predatory coward, the malingerer lurking in the shadows, awaiting a melanin soul to devour. It's obvious that your assailant thought his actions were just a cruel game, and we as a people will remain vigilant on making him and everyone remember your name. We may never know what you may have become, taken by those who detest us. Soon the battle will be won, and now you'll guide us and our grandchildren as an ancestor. Nia means purpose in Swahili. The Welsh translated it to bright. Brown-skinned queen, your slaying hurt us deeply, and this injustice we will continue to fight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Danny Mitchell, but when I get up here and I announce that it is the political poetry portion of the program, I become your host, Arthur Van God. And Art today has advised me to read from my continuing saga of the Write a Poem About Work for 2020. And in my 28 different jobs, we've come upon poem 21 and 22. The Weaver. The Weaver is a poem about me working at Berkshire Hathaway. Now, I know a lot of you hear Berkshire Hathaway, you think of Warren Buffett and his famous holding company, which it is, but it started out as a textile factory in New Bedford before he bought it. I started working there, and then once he bought it, he liquidated the assets and closed the company and just took the name. So this one's called the Weaver, and I don't know if any of you know anything about weaving, but making cloth, there's a lot of motions to a loom. It goes back and forth, it goes up and down, and it chugs like crazy. And all these things have to be kept running, and they find threads of what we, the weavers, repair. Whenever a thread breaks, the loom stops because it has a little electric short that the thread's holding up the wire, and then when the thread breaks, it hits the bar, shuts it all down. And my job is to go there, fix that string, and get that loom running. And I did that for a year, and then I got transferred into a department called the drawing in room. Now, drawing in is a term used to mean to set up the yarn through the heddles, and then through the reed to make the cloth. It's called the warp yarns. And so I was eventually doing that job. So you can imagine I was moving on up, because I went from a loom room which has 300 looms in it, all running at the same time, and you have to wear headsets, and you can't talk to people. You use sign language, or we use cards that had letters on them. And the DW would be, WD would be a wrong draw, meaning there was a streak in the cloth, you have to go fix it. And a smash, SM is a smash, that's when the shuttle flies out and breaks a bunch of yarn, about 30 or 40 of them, and you've got to tie the weaver's knot, which is the fancy knot we tie to connect two ends of threads together, Tie a knot in this end, tie a knot in that end, the weaver's knot. And you tie about 300 of them in the course of a night. And this is what I did for Berkshire Hathaway before they liquidated. So this poem is called The Weaver. I only was a weaver once at Berkshire Hathaway. The job itself was rather loud, but boy did it pay. Of all the factories in town, at least this one had a union, a piece rate system, a health care plan, corruption, and collusion. I wove cloth for a year or so, and I could do everything. Stop and start a loom so its shuttle it wouldn't fling. Draw warp yarns through the heddles and then through the reed, and I could tie a weaver's knot with lightning speed. I bit off this job to work in the drawing in room, where they set up the warp yarns for all the looms. My machine set up the looms that only ran solid colors. The women set up looms for stripes and plaids and special orders. My days were numbered at Berkshire, although I didn't know it. A man named Warren Buffett had seized control, so now he owned it. Soon he found it didn't fit into his little empire or his schemes, so he liquidated all the assets, and along with it, all our dreams. Thank you, The Weaver. This job combined a bunch of jobs that I had working in the textile industry as a dock worker mostly, and a shipping clerk. I did that in about 3 or 4 different places. So I just combined them into this one narrative. So this one is called The Dock Worker, or The Shipping Clerk. They start you out filling trailers that are 40 to 60 feet long. Tedious work that must get done, just like in that Deo song. Racks and racks of clothing to be shipped to parts unknown. Bolts of cloth and carpeting that will take on a life of their own. One thing a dock worker doesn't need is to stop off at a gym. After 8 hours of walking and lifting, another hour won't make you slim. You need a health plan and some future plans involving night courses, because no one retires from dock work except for the bosses. Some dock workers use forklifts to move the stock around. Then a shipping clerk will tell them where their pallets can be found. You double check to make sure this stock is on your bill of lading. Then you pick it up and gently place it down in the truck that's been waiting. The job itself is boring, and as mind-numbing as it may be, a national strike by dock workers can cripple the economy. If you don't see the big picture, you're likely to get discouraged. remember, the strength of the economy is in the arms and legs of the disparaged. Thank you, the dock worker. All righty. See you next week.
Hello, I'm Chuck Joy. I have 2 poems to read tonight, and they both address a theme of sports. They have to do with sports. And this first poem imagines us looking at a t-shirt, and it's called This T-Shirt Blues. We were happy then, I guess, just several years ago, together forever, the way it's supposed to be, the way I grew up to believe. It wasn't you, it was me. You never changed, oh no. You're more yourself than ever. I wanted more. I found it. I'm happy now. Our connection, an accident of geography, of birth. I grew to realize a bigger world. I saw a choice. I took it. Not much left from our relationship. A hat, a pennant, this t-shirt. I've found a more rewarding partner. I'm better off without you, Cleveland Browns. Thank you. That poem was dedicated to Louis Prest. Thank you, Lou. We'll talk again soon. Now, here's this other sports poem. This is called Baseball. Cleveland is my favorite team since I was born in Cleveland. Tempted to New York because my mother loved New York. My father didn't care. He was above such things. Sometimes he played a round of golf. We'd go to old cavernous municipal stadium, barely populated in bad years. Various combinations of us, increasingly including peers. Once, an exceptional character from college making a surprise visit heard I was at the game. I spotted him waving from an empty section. Later, the new ballpark opened. I went with my kids and their friends. Cleveland is my favorite team, and I have lots of gear, but I'm the kind of person who will wear a bright red jacket branded Boston in big blue letters, such as the jacket in my possession. I think it was a gift. Yesterday, I went to a book drive at the library. The volunteer who took my books went out of his way to catch my eye and tell me, "I like your jacket." I wanted to reply, "I don't like Boston." Thank you.
All right. Hello. I'm Todd. I'm going to be reading 2 poems and a short 2-liner after that. This poem, I wrote it and I forgot about it, and then recently I was going through my old journals and I found it. And I wrote this when I was moving from one apartment to another, and I was moving from my first apartment on my own to another one, and I was kind of thinking about what's the difference between an apartment and a home. How does it really change once you put your things in it? And this is a rumination on that. And it's called Awake or Alive. And then there was nothing except for the kicked up dust picked up by scrambled feet. Where's my life run off to? I'd know if I would have packed it up, but I haven't done any packing. Where's the wick? I have a little flame, a flick, but I've no wick to make it stick. Sometimes the idea of a sun is just as effective at giving warmth as the sun itself is. What's the difference between an object and the idea of that object? I like to think that I don't litter, but I've tossed a lot of butts, so I don't know who or what I am. If I keep talking at you, you're bound to respond to something. I can see it in your eyes. You want to. You really want to. I'll wait. If you press a button, nothing. And it seems broken. If it seems broken, the button, don't tear it out of the wall. Hire somebody to tell you that you should buy a replacement. It's just, I'm different than I was 5 minutes ago. And I'll be different for the rest of my life. I'm here, now. And for a while, I'm granted empty property. Will I fill it up? Make it a part of me? A parsing of my intent? Apartment? Thank you. All right. Now this is a fun one. I don't often get very political. I just don't. But one day, I was about to go to a hotel for a long time. And so I wrote a poem on this napkin. And it's about a napkin who is a libertarian and tells you to clean up your own mess. So this poem is called Libertarian Napkin. I can't clean up your mess for you. Only but the hands that spilled it up can lap it up into a makeshift bowl. Hold tight to the digits and count your blessings that it won't spread whatever color once filled that crystal tower. When eyes lay on the stain, it'll spin to rust, and the dust won't seem so small. Whatever I absorb, I still like an Arctic gust or a banshee's wail spilling into the night. But your bones creak, and your knuckles crackle as they warp and coil in attempt after attempt to wrap, to grasp that which finds the cracks and nestles between the folds. Thank you. And now a very, very short one. One of my kittens got fixed recently, and he had to wear his cone. So this is actually a poem for him. It doesn't have a name. I'll wear it with you, the cone of pain, so at least you won't feel any shame. All right.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Watts, and I have 2 poems for you this evening. The first one is called Phoenix. To be starving, yet not able to eat. What a conundrum. I didn't know skin could ache. It's one thing to be rejected. It's another to be exiled to a land where loneliness almost seems lethal. I don't think this is a job for the heart, and the soul has jurisdiction over the mind, so what's left? There is no easy way out of this labyrinth, too delicate for hungry hands, and too far from the tender ones you so deserve. So how do you close the gap? Time, a persistent yet not always kind friend. So you're left with a sickness that has no name. Huddled like a junkie in withdrawal, you shake with the name of your fix still on your tongue. Love. Crime of the century. And you don't need to burn because you have been set on fire. The phoenix, delicate at first, must go untouched until all of their feathers grow back. And so you wait, growing feathers, one by one. The next one is called Kind of Love. I have had enough of messy love, of complicated love, of fighting all night just to make love. I want dance in our socks, on wooden floors, drinking wine at midnight, and listening to old music, love. I have had enough of the toll road love, the trying to make it work love, the stranger for one night love. I want kisses like the 4th of July and roses just because love. I want sweaters on couches on snowy days and making pancakes in the morning together kind of love. I can't do the pushy love, the arrogant love, the just because it's comfortable love. And I am done with the guilty love, the angry love. But I am still dealing with the loss of love. Still, I know there will be days of warmth and long rides with miles of laughter. There will be sharing of burdens and of grief love. There will be first dates and meeting parents love. There will be beating hearts and meeting hands love. In a world of almost constant change, there's one thing that I am sure of. There will always be love.
I think this one is appropriate to follow you. This is a participation poem. So, when I start, excuse me is the name of it. I want you to say it like me. Excuse me. So, exactly. So, you will have to excuse me if I show off. You will have to excuse me if I'm blunt. After years of being pushed around, headaches and letdowns, excuse me if I choose not to be in the back, but in the forefront. Excuse me if I come off strong after years of being put down, backed into a corner, their hands around my neck, forced not to take a breath. It wasn't in fear, but in thoughts of, you just wait till I get what I need. I will be free. So excuse me if I come off fearless, bold, unfazed. I'm just living life and overcoming, and the phase of suffering. Now, my voice mighty and loud, bursting through every door, I'm coming back for everything that God has behind those doors. I'm claiming my power. And yes, sis, I've discovered a queen. I'm focused on greatness, my destiny. With fire blazing around me, Phoenix has to be seen. So if you see me coming, you will have to excuse me. Doctor, you like this one? Wordplay. And math, for those mathematics. This one is called Stop. Stop talking. I'm done listening. Really, today, it ends. I'm moving on. I'm already over the feelings. The healing's begun. So please believe me. Please, any of the above, stop. By the way, my name is Tammy, and I'm from SafeNet.
I do have a couple of poems to read too. But just as a reminder, anybody that might have gotten here late or it's still curious to, you can feel free to come up here and read. We have a station over there that also has sound if you want to read but don't necessarily want to be recorded. But yeah, just wanted to let you all know again. Normally I like to print these out, but couldn't find a printer. So I gotta find it first. So I'm reading 2 poems. One's pretty short, the other one's normal sized, whatever that means. And the first one is different than the other ones I've read here. It was written to be less intentional. I'm not even sure what that means, but it seemed smart at the time. So we'll give it a go. Aggress again. 1. Every time I leave home, I leave for good. So often I know which log in the yard the key is under, and the smell of pizza prepared from the freezer. 2. I've gone sloth with aggress again. The cold air the same as last year, except then I stood on a high roof and watched the buses drive away. Count them, please, and notice how each is a temple, a prayer, a meaning of eyes, a salvation. 3. I envy the sky in Maine. At night, the dark is so clean between stars that if you imagine hard enough, there might be words up there. A recipe for one medium-sized man, or an insult beginning with your mama and ending with something about failure. 4. It is silly to think I am alone. I scoop the cosmos into equal parts and wait for someone to stop by with a collection basket, as if they would, as if I would give them anything if they asked. Okay. Sorry, I don't usually try to stare down as much, but I need new glasses and this phone is too small. Okay, and this is the short one, titled Sunday Morning Before the Church Bells. Awake before the copper music and parked cars. Lucky, someone said, to sleep behind the only church God lives in. I've yet to see him, but the sunspots on the banner outside are shaped like his hands. I suppose that is enough. And that's all. Yep. So if anybody else wants to come up.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. Hello, everybody. I am a domestic violence survivor, and I have a poem called Abuse Isn't that I wrote from my heart, and I hope everybody likes it. Okay. Abuse isn't name calling or bashing anybody or putting anybody down. It isn't okay for a man to hit a woman. Also, it is not saying mean things to her. It also isn't making okay for making his fiance or wife or girlfriend feel bad. It isn't control, abuse isn't also telling this individual where they can and can't go, what to do with their money. Take me, for example, I work, and I got 2 kids, and I know what it's like to go through domestic violence, and it also abuse isn't telling this particular person that they can't have friends. I mean, to me, I personally think, in my personal opinion, that domestic violence is wrong to do to somebody. Because the reason why I say that is because if this individual does it, then it's not okay. So I feel in my heart that this, and all you ladies out there, to me, I think that a woman should not have to go through this pain of being abused, because I know what it's like. And let me tell you guys, ladies, something. When I was a little girl, I grew up in an abusive household. And I was to the point where I was 4 years old, and I grew up, you know, with my dad and my mom. God rest his soul, he's in heaven now, my father. But I grew up in an abusive household where there was always yelling all the time, yelling and screaming and pushing and shoving and hitting and all the necessary stuff. That's, to me, in my heart, in my personal opinion, I think it's wrong. Does everybody agree with me that it's wrong? I do. Because I think it's wrong for somebody to be going through this particular situation. Because my child's father, you know, who I'm not going to mention his name, but he was, when my oldest daughter, who I love so much, my daughters, I love them so much, they're my pride and joy. But like I said, my dad would come home and he would come home from the bar, because he was a heavy drinker. He would come home from the bar and he would smack my mom. He'd hit my mom terrible. And I saw it, and I was crying really bad, you know. And my brother's room, because my sister and I, you know, we don't get along right now, but we used to. But my father would come home from the bar like at 4 a.m, and he'd hit my mom. He would tell my mom she was no good. And if dinner wasn't cooked a particular way, then, you know, then that's when it happened. But in my personal opinion, I think that abuse is really wrong. And I want to thank my friends from SafeNet for helping me. I would have never gotten through this experience if it hadn't been for my friends, who I love so much. But I'm just saying that I just think it's the wrong thing to do to an individual. I'm sorry, everybody, for crying, but you don't know what the pain I had to go through when my daughter was 2.5 to almost 3, is when it happened. He would take and he'd throw me against the wall, and it was a horrible experience. But I'm just saying that I just think it's wrong. And that's my experience.
Evening, everybody. My name is Luchetta Manis, and I am a survivor. I take a lot of pride in saying that because it's been a rough road. I think sometimes people don't understand that it's not just victims that go through things, it's their families as well. I wrote this poem about my grandmother because she was always a source of strength for my family and for myself, and just talking to her through the years of the things she had to watch me go through. My grandmother, she was the angel on my shoulder while the devil was surrounding me, restoring me to engage in everything she asked me not to do. Can you still hear me? Her life experience and seasoned maturity spoke through her voice of care and concern for me, but usually the devil won. She stayed on her knees praying her pleas to the Almighty that I wouldn't turn up missing or dead. She prayed for stability so I would keep a healthy mind and not flirt with insanity. She also prayed that I would be in good bodily health, and for some reason her prayers never fell upon deaf ears. The Lord willing agreed to her terms because, after all, I'm still alive. Love was the language she often spoke from her lips, along with a couple of curse words from time to time when a situation presented itself. Phrases she used to say like, "Lord, have mercy," or "God don't like ugly," followed by maybe a little bit of, "Baby, you gotta get tougher skin," rang in my ear melodies of correction to get myself together. It must have been difficult to carry the weight of others, especially when she had more compassion for others than she did for herself sometimes. She was a living book whose title was Virtue. The pages of her life was knowledge and applied knowledge, wisdom. Each line of her face was written. The sun sparkled in her eyes. She owned the hard substance of "I don't give a beep" she wore on her outside with a soft substance of faith in her interior. This, I bet, made it easier for her to maneuver through life's ups and downs. She always seemed to know what to do when I didn't know what to do. Sometimes when she didn't really know what to do was when she asked God and He knew what to do. That's what she did. She held an awesome position in the family and in my heart. I hope wherever she is more radiant with pride, knowing I am not a finished product, and also knowing that one day I will be joining her in glory just as happy as she would be. This is my last one. It's called Pain. I never loved you, and I never wanted you. He said it once, but I heard it over and over again, echoing in my ear. The anger on his face made tears form, breaking, crushing my soul into fragments, too small to even make whole again. Once word leaves lips, the travel to ears, it's no turning back from that. In my head, I envisioned all the times I told him I loved him and meant it from my heart. All the times I pledged myself to all his many causes, thinking I proved my love and loyalty time and time again. Then I held up my head to the sky as to plead to the Creator for relief of the pain I felt in my chest. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I was almost sure it would kill me. Lord, I just want to die. This is too much for me. I thought about how I fought to keep him with me, how I pleaded for his attention and constantly craved his affection, which with every passing day became less and less. Then I realized, it came to me that he was right. He never loved me, and he didn't want me. I was just too blinded by my own desires for him to be loved. That day, a little more of what made Lucetta die. I was never the same. But then after years of loving myself, all the positivity in my life was regained. Thank you.
This is another poem by a domestic violence survivor called Awaken. As the leaves rustle along to the wind, one sticks to her wet face full of tears. Blank stare shows no interest in the leaf, just the look of lost innocence. Her racing, beating heart is the only thing she will let herself hear. She is afraid to even breathe. She pulls within, along with the happy emotions, memories left to her inner core, and reality is beaten out. This is safe, protective space she has created. What is left on the outside, closed off, defensive, quiet, self-harm, destructive, low self-esteem, self-destructive. Much longer must she hide? Wake up, little one. It's your turn to shine.
Is there anybody else that would like to read tonight? Did you already have any more poems? Okay. Awesome. Well, oh, one more? Cool. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it.
The stage wasn't meant for tall people, apparently. All right, yeah, it's fine. Can you hear me? All right. My name's Chad Henderson. Hi, everyone. Everyone is coming off very intimidating and smart. So I do not want to go, but I will. I'm going to start with someone who is smarter than all of you, Miss Maya Angelou. Not my own. Also intimidating, but just a beautiful soul and someone I identify with, believe it or not. And perfect for this point in time, I think. This poem is called Alone. Lying, thinking. Last night, how to find my soul a home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody but nobody can make it out of here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. There are some millionaires with money they can't use. Their wives run around like banshees, their children sing the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone. But nobody, no, nobody can make it out of here alone. Alone, all alone, nobody, but nobody can make it out of here alone. Now, if you listen carefully, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering. The wind is gonna blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moan because nobody but nobody can make it out of here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody but nobody can make it out of here alone. You don't have to thank me for that one, that was her. This is my horrible poem that I wrote. We keep our distance, but no, it's in our closeness that keeps us safe. Safe to not be abused. safe to speak another language, safe to be another color of skin, safe to love a person of the same gender, safe to not have a gender. We keep our distance, but find a way to show your love. Send a letter, write a poem, embarrass yourself on stage with yellow shoes. Don't let these masks we wear kill your soul. Thank you.
Yeah, those are awesome shoes, and also thank you for coming up. Well, I just want to thank everybody once again. Looks like the evening's kind of winding down. I want to thank SafeNet and all of the survivors that came out here tonight to read and share with us their lives and experiences. Any time we have like these months, it's easy to think about it for the month and stop. And I think, like was brought up earlier, that can't just be the case. So, let's keep on keeping this in mind and trying to help how we can and help survivors survive. Again, I want to thank everybody. Just some wonderful poetry tonight. I want to remind everybody that we have this same time next week. We will have a featured speaker. Also, there will be an interview afterwards. That won't be aired live, but it will eventually go up online. It can be watched. So thank you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Good evening. I'm Blaine Dessy, Director of the Erie County Public Library, and tonight we're having one of our poetry live sessions here at the Hurt Auditorium. It's my great pleasure to be able to interview one of our local poets, Thasia Ann, and it's particularly gratifying to me to sit with her during October, which is National Domestic Violence Month. So I have a few questions for Thasia Ann about her work as a poet, as an artist, and we'll get to know you a little bit better. How's that?
That'd be awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to start with my first question.
I'm ready.
And excuse me while I read.
Okay.
You are a very active poet in that you've been published several times. You have a television show on local access television. You've produced a poetry program at Edinburgh University. So you're very active, but you're also an activist.
Yes.
Which is reflected in your work. So can you talk to me about what motivates you to write, to perform, and to produce?
Well, I was a survivor of 17 years of domestic violence, and some of my original poetry came out as I was just after I escaped to just cleanse my soul. And originally I stuffed them under the bed in a box. Well, one time my son, who was 17 or 18 at the time, discovered the box and read some of them, and he said, "Mom, these are really good, and I think they could help someone." So I called my past counselor, and I asked her if what I was doing was good for me or bad for me, and she said, "Oh, it's awesome." And she told me to go talk to Linda Lyons-King at SafeNet, and from there was an 8-year relationship where I volunteered and used my poetry in the shelter to help women understand they weren't alone, that they weren't the only one this had happened to. So that's
art as a therapy.
Yes, absolutely. For me, it was a therapy.
Great. So is that what prompted you to write in the first place? Was it your journey through this bad situation that prompted you to write?
The very first poem I ever wrote was in 7th grade. These women came in with clipboards, and they were doing a Erie school district sampler of writing from kindergarten all the way through. And they said, "We want you to write a poem." I had never written a poem, but I sat down and just in moments wrote a poem because they said, write about something that makes you happy or sad. And the week before, the young man across the street had been killed in Vietnam. So my first poem was called War, and it was in the sampler.
So writing goes back a long
Yeah.
way for you, back to your, 12th?
Yeah,
year?
whatever age you are in seventh grade, I don't remember.
Exactly. So I read your poetry before this interview, and I was struck by the very powerful imagery that you have in your poetry. And I want to quote a few of them that I thought were particularly strong. Strong women with scars or scares, wild wind words, skin stretched back from your face, bamboo beneath nail beds, all very powerful. How do you choose, or how do you discover those images, and what do you want to invoke with those powerful images?
I have felt since I first started writing that my words were gifted from above, because when I write, it comes fast, and I don't change much of it once it hits the paper. So I'm also an artist, painter, writer. I went to commercial art at Tech with Vitus Kaiser, who just recently passed away. He was a very wonderful man. So I think because I'm also an artist, I get a picture, and then I try to describe the picture to whoever's going to hear it or read it.
So you actually see an image that comes to you, and then you translate that into word. That's very interesting.
The skin stretched back. I remember thinking when he was screaming at me one night, he was really right in my face, and I felt like my skin was going back. So
the images are very, very powerful.
Thank you.
And when I read those images, it really struck me that these are the words of someone who has experienced this.
Yes.
They rang very, very true, which I think is a compliment. So some of your poems describe entrapment, while others suggest that there's a way to move beyond the pain and the fear. I mean, I saw the two themes, the entrapment and then moving beyond. So what do you want people to take specifically from your poetry? What's the message that you want to impart? Because I feel that you're a powerful messenger.
Oh, thank you. Well, again, I'm going to touch base on God for me, because I got married in the eyes of God in church, and I felt under no circumstances could I ever leave him. I had to, sickness and health, he was sick. And then the last night I spent in his house, he had threatened not only myself and our two sons, but himself. And I remember having an epiphany. God does not want me to die or my children to die tonight because of a promise I made when I was 15 years old. Right. So what I want to impart to women, because everybody asks that question, why did she stay? There's a multitude of reasons, but in my particular case, I think it kept boiling down to, will I be forgiven if I walk out on this marriage? And I want to impart on them that God does not want you to die for a decision you made as a teenager or a 20-year-old. And let's face it, when you married him that day, he didn't say, oh, by the way, I'm going to beat you up the rest of your life, right. So it was false facts that you married. And then the other part of that is that I want to impart on them that there is truly blessed life afterwards, in that I floundered around for a while. I'm not going to pretend I came out and immediately found a perfect life, but I did find a perfect life. And I have a wonderful husband who is, we are like evenly yoked and do life together and support each other and everything. And I am never, ever afraid. And that's the biggest blessing to me.
So what words do you have for women who are still trapped in that kind of a situation? who don't feel they have the courage or the strength to take that
Right.
step.
Right. I wish I had it memorized, but there is a national hotline number. So in Erie, we're blessed and have SafeNet, but there are a lot of communities that don't have help. There is a 1-800 number you can look up on the internet. But generally speaking, if you're a friend trying to help your person, your friend that's in a relationship, just making them come and stay at your house is not the answer. There's a lot of preparation to be ready. I lost all my documents. I didn't have my wedding papers, my divorce decrees, my children's birth certificates. I didn't have any of that ready to go. And so it was hard to replace all that. So there are ways to do it safely, and there are shelters and organizations that will help you do it safely.
So October, as we mentioned earlier, is National Domestic Violence Month. So for people watching this, what do you want them to know?
That if you are in that situation, there is help out there, the national number, or if you're in the Erie, Pennsylvania local area, there is SafeNet, and I'm sorry I don't have numbers memorized. There is always help available. You are not too dumb or too uneducated, unable to support yourself. You can find all of that support once you get out. And even if you've never worked a job, you can learn how to work a job. There is life after domestic violence.
So what's next for Thasia Ann? I mean, you're a writer, you're a performer, you're a producer.
Yep.
What's next?
Well, I just recently retired from a social work organization, but this month I have dedicated myself, along with another survivor, Michelle Littler, and the two of us have paraded around in purple all month long. And yesterday was her event called Wear It Wednesday, where we got businesses and friends and families and all different organizations to put on purple and get pictures with us, and it was just to bring awareness. And I still orchestrate poetry readings in different areas. We're going to be doing one Wednesday a month at Art Lore Studio, just to get people out again. You have to wear masks, but at least you're back out in the public again. Exactly. and getting some, feeding your soul kind of material.
Exactly.
Once COVID is put to bed in some kind of fashion, I will go back to doing the Edinburgh show. It was quite a disappointment because this was our 10-year celebration during the 100-year celebration of women's suffrage. So to have that all shut down was really kind of soul-crushing, but we're carrying all that in a bucket and can't wait until we can do it again. And that was WOW, Women of Word, featuring a few man-made words, because I realized that some of my male poet friends also had something valuable to say.
So tell me about your show on Access Television.
Yes, that's called Poetry, Prose, and Personalities. And what I decided to do with that is I feel there's so many people, and this was prior to COVID, but there were so many people locked in their homes due to disability or transportation issues that they never got to enjoy the arts. And so what I do is interviews with personalities, poets, artists, people that are just fun, that have something to offer people at home. And we record the poetry readings. We go to Art Lore and take pictures of all the artwork on the walls. Just a way to try to encourage people at home to still stay engaged.
Well, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us this evening. This is Thasia Ann, poet, publisher, producer, activist, and a wonderful person. So Thasia Ann, thank you so much for spending time with us here at the library.
Thank you, Blaine. I really appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening.